I swear I can hear that Slack notification sound in my sleep. Slack is helping us run our businesses smoother in 2021, and for a great reason. Slack is seriously a game changer, specifically for agencies, but there are some do's and don'ts to the platform that you should have in mind when you're using it for your agency. We work in Slack all day, every day, and we know a thing or two about it. Not only do we use it internally at Dot & Company, all of our agencies use it too. The back and forth between Slack channels, Asana, Gmail, Zoom all day long. Do you feel us? Here are our best tips to running your agency on Slack.
Welcome to the Happy Clients Podcast, brought to you by Dot & Company. Whether you're a virtual assistant, an agency owner, or a client-facing account manager, we all deal with clients. Lucky for you, client management is what we do best. Now, let's dig in, chat cam life, and have some fun along the way. Cheers to happy clients.
Okay, Katie, let's dive into Slack. I think every agency owner listening probably uses Slack, I'm going to assume. And it's just a game changer. So why don't we start by talking about the notifications for productivity, because we're big on productivity and efficiency. So let's start there.
Yeah. And if I had a nickel for every time an agency owner was like, I'm so overwhelmed, like Slack, the notifications, it's always pinging me. I'm so overwhelmed by all the red dots. Then, I'd probably live in a mansion somewhere, because it is sort of a tool that can be too much at some times. So kind of knowing the tricks and knowing how to use it productively is super helpful. So Slack can quickly become the biggest distraction of your day, and it can definitely be a hindrance to your productivity. So here's how we change that and how we use Slack productively, efficiently, and it actually contributes positively to our workflow. So first things first, turn off the sound. That little bounce, that little click or whatever it is, turn that off. And you can do that in the settings and the notifications drop-down menu in Slack. So you're definitely going to want to turn that off. And if you want to be productive, sit down and get your tasks done and not be interrupted, then that's how you do it. Turn off that sound. I know it's there for a reason. You want to be notified, but those are not the kind of Slack notifications we need. We know they're there. We're keeping a pulse on it. We don't need to be reminded and panicked every time that clickety click comes in.
And speaking of productivity, a little trick on Slack is you can actually set yourself to away. So it looks like you're not even online at all. So fewer distractions, people are going to think you're not there, so they can't get an instant message. So if you're deep diving into setting up ads or writing a blog post, just set yourself to away and no one's going to interrupt you.
And I think that's huge when using Slack. Like Slack is not the new, for all those 80 kids out there, it's not the new Windows Messenger where that's the only way you can reach your friends and your colleagues. Slack is a way to communicate quick information, get a pulse on things, something less formal than an email. So take that mindset of work, not immediate response, right? Like you have to understand that Slack is very much like an email in terms of it needs a response that's educated and thought out. It doesn't have to be as quick and as reactive as something like your iMessage on your phone. So always keep that mindset when you are using Slack, because I think that kind of gets you to a baseline of productivity, and then you feel just maybe calmer about using Slack as a platform.
Yeah, and don't let Slack control you. Set your status to away. I'm podcasting or I'm on a meeting, just so that people know that they can't just ping you and get an answer right away. Control the notifications for your productivity.
And I love Slack did this fairly recently, within the last year. You can choose kind of what you're doing. So maybe you're in a meeting, sync it up with your calendar. That's great. You're driving, put the, you can put the little car there if you're eating French fries. So just let everybody on Slack know what you're doing. It just manages their expectations as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So another thing that agency owners will say is that they feel like they're missing things in Slack and feeling like things are falling through the crack. And they're like, is it just me? Am I not organized? And no, it is honestly just how you control Slack on a daily basis.
One of my favorite things on how I control Slack messages is pinning and even making sure that they're like high level so you won't forget things. Anything like a report, a tracking sheet, you can always pin it to the top of the conversation that maybe you have with your media buyers or even your agency owner. So you always know exactly where it is. Another super useful tool of Slack, and is actually a reason why I enjoy it as to maybe keeping the conversations in your project management tool, is that I love reading it and then going back. So you can read it, mark it unread. So it's there, your bubble's there, to go back to it, but you're also kind of like looped in on what's been happening. So you know what, I don't have to do that task right now, but I do need to remember to do it later. So maybe you pin it to the top, mark it unread, and you can kind of just go back to it when you have the right amount of time to revisit that.
Yeah. And sometimes if there's a task I know I need to do in 3 hours, you can click those three little buttons and say, remind me about this in 3 hours. Another thing that I like to do is just star stuff. So like say, or I think it's called flagging. If there's like a bunch of things that come through in your Slack channel, like that's important, that's not, that's important, just star the things that you need to come back to. Then every day before you finish your day, just clean out those starred things so that you've actually tackled them. If they're that important, add them into Asana or whatever project management software you're using, which likely has an option to link it up to Slack so that you're actually following through on the important things. There shouldn't be super important things left in threads in Slack because that's when they get important. They need to be carried over to your project management tool if they need action.
And I think even to that point as well, you will be working with different teams inside of Slack. So if you're working with a creative team where they're sending videos back and forth, new images, and you don't really need to be in the day-to-day, hour-to-hour conversations, but what you do need is the end product to send to a client. So you're in the channel for a reason, but it's quite busy. It's, being pinged and flagged all day long. Just request that internal team to, hey, I'm not really going to pay attention to this channel until you guys need me. So just mention me at Katie Fairweather. Just let me know when it's ready for me. Make sure I'm pinged so I have a pulse on this. Because you're right, Taylor, those threads can get insane.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to make sure that the relevant information is being brought to our attention. We've all been in group threads, Slack or not, that we don't really always need to be that important piece to the puzzle. So once it's your turn, you're up to plate, you can kind of be pinged in.
And I think the burning question for most agency owners listening is, should I have my clients in Slack? And there's honestly two sides to this. And I've done it personally, and I don't love having clients in Slack for the pure reason that I don't want clients expecting an immediate response from me. But I know, Katie, you actually don't mind it.
So I was definitely of that mindset of people in different time zones and always being, at their disposal. And I think it's really before I dove into Slack and got really used to the different tools that you can actually use in Slack, like the status updates. Are you away? Are you, sleeping with the Z notifications? Hello, Canada, Z. So once you kind of get used to that and put yourself in to that very like, this is for work, these are my working hours, I'm actually eating dinner with my kids, you can't Slack me, then it starts getting a little bit easier. The expectations are managed, and then it's also super useful for those quick one-offs. Hey, get this approved. Hey, what about this copy? Hey, client, how's your day going? Because I actually genuinely care about you and I want to know what's going on. So there are different reasons why I actually like Slack for clients, but I think it's a fine line. It can circle a drain very quickly. So make sure those expectations are set up, unless you want people messaging you whenever you want, which isn't really ideal, but could be the way you work.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing here is like setting those expectations of, so if you're going to have your clients in Slack, make sure they know that they can't just like ping you and you're going to answer, and train yourself not to just answer straight away. So I guess like you can have them in Slack, you cannot. It just depends on how you train them. It sounds so funny, but just don't let them expect instant answers from you.
Yeah, set up that expectation. There's no reason There always is a circumstance where things are emergency, urgent. You always see kind of those stars or the, strobe light emoji coming through. And those are a great place for Slack. Urgent, get this done, check out this link. What do you think about this email? But then it also has to be a balance of not at midnight and not right before bed. And also as client account managers, we have to get used to, and it's the role of client account managers, but also whoever's using Slack, because we definitely don't want agency owners or media buyers to be thinking that they need to have it on their phone and be checking as if it's some sort of instant messenger where people can reach you any day, anytime. If that's not your jam, we wouldn't recommend it. It's not for me. I have to separate the two. And in a world of technology and everything at your fingertips, that can be tricky. So figure out the balance, what works for you, and then set those expectations.
It really depends. Like some of the clients that I work with, the agency owner doesn't need to be in the daily communication with clients. But if we had Slack and he or she was in that channel, they're just naturally going to see everything. Where to allow the agency owner to get out of the day, personally, I find it's better to just keep them out, either keep them out of the Slack channel or keep them out of the CC on the email, and just manage your clients and then update them as they need. So personally, I recommend email. I know, Katie, you go either way, but I recommend email. Sounds old school, but clients really shouldn't have access to you all day. And they should know that from the beginning, you'll send them daily pulses as you're onboarding them, and you'll keep them looped in. And if they have any questions, they can kind of fire you an email or sometimes a Slack message. And you're, at the end of the day, you as the client account manager and or the agency owner, you're responsible for setting these expectations with your clients. But if you really want to be productive and scale up, your clients should not be pinging you all day, every day.
Yes. I was just going to say the 9.9.9.9% of the time, agency owners are coming to us wanting to get out of the day-to-day. They don't want to be in the Slack channels. They don't want to be in that daily communication. So what's helpful for agency owners, what's helpful for us is that us as client account managers, we absorb that. We have the tools and sort of the knowledge to set those boundaries. And then it seems to work out for everybody, right? Client account managers, agency owners are out of the day-to-day. You've got it handled. Win.
So overall, Slack honestly is an amazing tool for your agency, and I don't know what we would do without it. I'd argue it's required if you're building an agency in 2021.
Let's just pause too for the fun of Slack. Giphies.
Yeah.
The Giphies, the shout outs, the wins. There's a really great camaraderie with Slack. It really brings together a remote team. And that's definitely a positive. You can have a fun channel. We have a tunes channel. So anybody who's kind of listening to music or wants to shout out their recent playlist, put that in there. So there's a lot of fun things you can do with Slack too, where it's a little less formal and really brings everybody. It's a space that everybody can kind of come to and really excel as a team and be together when we're not physically together, right? So it's definitely positive for the team aspect as well.
Yeah, exactly. So next to Slack, definitely need Asana or another project management tool to keep all the important tasks tracked and streamlined. And if you haven't already grabbed our client onboarding checklist, make sure you grab it, upload it into your Asana or project management tool so that you can keep life organized in one area while Slack is kind of dinging you and things are flying and conversations are being had over on Slack. So if you're curious about what we do for agencies, definitely check us out, reach out, and we'd be happy to kind of have a chat and get to know you. And of course, keep tuning in to the Happy Clients podcast. We'll be dropping all the knowledge on you agency owners with all these tools and tricks and tips and project management software and all that good stuff to help you scale up your agency and just live a more organized life. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we hope you got some information about Slack. I'm sure you're already using it. If not, get on there, put your team on Slack, and we'll be dropping lots of knowledge about Slack and all the other tools right here on this podcast.
Thanks for listening.
So until next time, cheers
to happy clients.